I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, everybody. It's Sunday. It's time for the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. We've got a really great show for you today. We're going to have another one of those fun Sunday roundtables that we've been having a lot of fun with here on the Sunday edition. Today, we have joining with us Michael Overstreet from The Garden Nerd and our good friend Scott Blackburn from New Garden Road. They're going to be joining with us here just a little bit later on for a really fun garden roundtable where we're asking, what does your garden say about you today? So we're going to have a fun conversation today with those guys here just a little bit later on in the show. And if you are here right now, right at the top of the show, definitely, if you can, hit that thumbs up, hit the like button there real quick, subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet, and hit the bell notification so you be notified of all of our upcoming shows with all these great guests and our videos. I've got videos coming out. In fact, I was just looking at looking at things today, and I didn't realize I put out that last latest pepper video, and man, I turned around and that thing's already got well over 1,000 views already. And for me and my channel, that's pretty good for just a couple of days being out like that. So people are really responding to that one really well. So get over there and check out our latest video in our pepper series, or go jump back from the beginning if you haven't started it or checked it out yet. We're going all the way throughout the whole season of how I start from seeds all the way to collecting seeds. At the end of the year, we're going to go through the whole process of growing and all of these just really cool varieties of peppers that we've got this year. And yeah, we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. Like I said, some seed saving. So that means we're going to do some isolation. I've got my rooftop garden back this year, so we're going to get back up there. I'm going to show you all about that and all sorts of stuff. I mean, we got a lot going on that video series, so you'll definitely not want to miss out, as well as garden journals. I'm going to put another one of those out this next week for you all too. So again, definitely want to make sure you've got that notification button hit so that you can make sure that you're notified of all those videos as they come out, and you can keep up to date with what we've got growing on here on the Urban Gardener channel. Right on. And definitely share with all your friends. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show, Urban Gardener channel, all the things we've got growing on here. So definitely garden groups, garden, all of your garden clubs, all that sort of stuff. Get the word out, let people know about our show here, the Let's Get Growing show, every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and 7 p.m. BST, British Summertime as well too, for all of you over there too. So definitely come check us out there too. Also, big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching our show on the replay. Thank you for joining with us on your time. And like I always say, get down into the comment section below. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you got growing on. Let me know if you got any questions or suggestions or anything like that. Or really, if you just want to say hi, drop in. Just drop into the comments there. Love hearing from all of you. So definitely do that. And if you are joining with us here on the show and you have any questions for me or our guests, definitely drop those in when we get our guests in for our roundtable later on. I love getting questions from all of you guys as well too. So definitely put those into the chat in big, bold, capital letters, though, if you can do that. I'll try to keep an eye out for all the questions, but if you put them in big, bold, capital letters, I can see the questions from the regular conversation that you're all having. having. So then we can make sure we get our questions fit into our conversation. And that is another caveat too, is that if you ask some questions too, which we really, really encourage, I'm going to try to fit them into the conversation as best I can as well too. And we do try to get to all questions. So be sure I will try to get to them if I can. But some might slip through, they do. And I apologize for that if that does happen as well too. Follow all the links too down below in the description to all of our guests as well too. They're spending their time hanging out with us here, talking all about gardening here on our show. So let's go show them some support as well too. I've got links to them all down below in the description, and you can go over there to their channels, their social media, all of that there. Go check out one of their videos or posts or something and jump into their comments. Let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. All right. I really, really appreciate it when you guys do that. So thank you so much for all of you who do take that extra time to, again, show a little love, show a little bit of support. That's what we're all about here on the show, is building community through the garden community there, and so, these, like I said, they come here and they hang out, and we're having some fun conversations here on the show every weekend. So yeah, let's definitely check out those links down below too. Right on, everybody. I hope you all have been having a really great gardening week this week so far. Everything's been going good for me. It's been a lot of preparation and doing a lot of stuff leading up to now, but it's now planting time. We've really passed our last frost date just a little while, several days ago, just a few days back. And so it's just full on go. I've looked at, the weather looks great. In fact, it's actually looked pretty good for a little while, but this year I was just I don't know why. I mean, I literally did. And you know what? I actually ended up being wrong when it came down to it, but I just had a feeling. I thought, for some reason, a couple of years ago, I got had by planting early and getting a lot of stuff out, and I was running around trying to make sure I was covering plants and doing all sorts of stuff to make sure they were going to be okay, when I ended up getting a frost I think it was literally just a couple of days right after what was supposed to be our last frost date. So remember, that's an average date there for your last frost. That means that you can possibly get frost afterwards as well too. And that did happen to me a couple of years ago. So this year, I don't know why, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I just have a feeling it's going to try to do that to me again. and it didn't actually. The weather is actually being good. I could have really planted just a little bit early, but sometimes we just want to be a little bit cautious and make sure. And so it's full on planting time. I'm ready. I'm getting seeds prepared to go out for direct sowing and everything right now. So it's just full on for summertime and getting these plants rolling and going where I'm at. So I hope that's kind of the case for you as well too. I know in a few more northern places we're still waiting a little bit for some last frosts and all that, but hopefully you're able to get some real good things started in your gardens. One thing I'll mention though too here, also, as I jump in here, let's take a real quick run through and see if we can't say hi to a few folks here in the conversation. I see that we had someone new jumping in early before the show, Texas Organic TV. Thanks for joining with us today. Thanks for being new here. It's great to have you. And thanks for joining in on the show here. I see we also want to say hi to our facilitator and our good friend Jay Dixon, joining us from Midwestern Ontario, Canada. Thank you so much. Keep an eye out in the chat there, as Jay will be dropping in links and those sort of things as we're talking through the conversation, and dropping different things in there. I will say, not to give Jay a hard time, but yesterday, I think we got Jay for the very first time yesterday during our conversation, trying to get I was pointing for a link and all of that, and Jay, everybody knows, is on top of it, man, always just right there to make sure we got links and we got things so that we can find that further information on some of the subjects and things we're talking about. And there was one of them that kind of came up and got her, and I think that was the first time. So every now and then, even the good ones get got sometimes. So thank you, Jay, for all you do anyways, and it doesn't matter at all. You do so much anyway. anyways. So thank you so much. It's so awesome. Right on. Let's see here. I see we got Bohemian Herbology in the chat as well too. Bowtie Life in the Garden. Uh, nice of you. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. Mill Creek, awesome to see you. Good to see you back here. Awesome to have you here. And we got David from Guten Gardening in the chat as well too. Guess what? We're going to have David here in just a couple of minutes as we are going to get rolling with our new it's new, it's the same in the garden segment, every Saturday and all of that, but we're rolling out some new contributors. David from Guten Gardening, and also or Paul. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm sorry, Paul. Paul from Guten Gardening, and David from Bowtie Life in the Garden are going to be our new contributors for In the Garden segment. And today we're going to meet Paul's and check out Paul's garden there that he has. And then we'll be getting to see David here next week as well too. So we're getting rolling with our new contributors here. And I'm really excited about checking out what content they've got for us as well for those segments. So lots more fun coming up. So definitely want to make sure you're here checking out our show each and every weekend. Serena, awesome to see you. Thanks for being here. Hi, Serena. Good to have you here. Excellent. Like I said, awesome to have everybody here. Just trying to run through, make sure we're saying hi. And awesome. We see we got also Scott from New Garden Road, our guest here a little bit later on, jumping into the chat too. Awesome. Good to see you there. And English Ladies Kitchen Garden. Awesome. Great, guys. Everybody, thank you so much again for being here. One thing I was going to mention here before we get going with the In the Garden segment, I was hoping to see, and look at that. There he is. Just popped in real quick. There's my man, Adam. And maybe just perfect timing too. Maybe that's the great thing. Adam's my savior. And here's the thing I've been mentioning, and I showed on the show yesterday as we opened the show up. I have our little opening clip, and I was showing you my kind of, I say sad little tomato starts. They're doing really good and they're fine. It's just, I'm really behind because I made one of those big, huge mistakes. I've got a lot of things growing on. I got a lot of stuff. I'm an active person. We'll talk about this sort of stuff here just a little bit in our conversation coming up as well too. But one of those things that happens, sometimes is we forget about something, and we forget about it for a while too. And things for me in this situation, I forgot my tomato starts out back. It got really sunny that day, and then it got sunny the next day, and by later that day when I remembered, those things were completely fried. So I had to start over with all of my tomato starts and everything. And so I've got little ones, and so I'm behind. I should be planting them out and everything, but they're not quite ready for getting out into my garden spaces yet. And so Adam sent me a message yesterday. He says, you know what? I got some great starts left over, some good ones. They're all hardened off, ready to go and all of that. He says, I'll bring them over and everything. So I'm looking to plant some tomatoes. He's got some great varieties. So Adam to the rescue to help me out to make sure ultimately, I would go ahead and go with, and I'm going to pick a couple of the ones that I do have already. I'm going to pick some of them, and I'm going to grow them out anyways alongside with some of these other ones and as well too, just to grow them anyways. But I'm going to choose Adam's plants over the ones I have right now, as far as the majority of what I'm going to grow, because we're talking production at this point. So I want to make sure I get some good production. I want to make sure I got a good amount of stuff. So Adam's jumped in. He saved my garden as far as tomatoes this year, making sure I'm going to be able to produce some good tomatoes and get some and really some good new varieties in there as well too. So that's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to that. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again, Adam. Thank you everybody for being here. Like I said, so great to have you all here for this really great show. We got our guests coming up here in just a minute, but right now it's time. Like I said, we're going to go and check out what's going on and really just get a good look at the garden over there at Guten Gardening. Paul with our In the Garden segment this week. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Paul from Guten Gardening, and today I'm very excited to welcome you to our garden. I'm also very excited to be joining the Urban Gardener and the Let's Get Growing show for a monthly segment. And today's the first one, so I thought it might be a good idea to introduce you to our gardening space. So without further ado, here we go. Guten Gardening, everybody. You know, our channel's been around for a little over 4 years now, but I realize that many of you are brand new to the channel. And about 4 years ago, we did an aerial photo shoot where we took a look at our entire property to give everybody a good idea of what our layout was. Well, there have been a few additions since then, and so if you're brand new to the channel and this is the first time you're seeing Guten Gardening, I want to take this opportunity to show you our layout and really show you what we're working with here in Zone 5, Wisconsin. Now, I'm going to start off by acknowledging that right now we're at the beginning of the outdoor growing season, so most of our plants are still inside. Some of them are coming out to harden off pretty soon, but we don't have a lot planted and a lot growing. So I'm going to make the initial footage that I have that I'm showing you here, the drone footage that we took about 4 years ago. We were fortunate enough to have a professional come out, free of charge I might add, and do drone footage of the entire property. And it was so awesome to have them come out and take a look. Now, the garden space you see behind me didn't exist at the time of that footage. This is our front yard garden space that's on the southeast side of our home. And we've also added additional gardening space on the southwest side of our home. But the beginning of this footage shows you the patio garden that exists around the front of our property. That patio garden extends its way to the back, and along the side of that patio garden we have a couple of raised beds, and all of our raised beds except the two smallest are ones that we've done as DIY raised beds. But you're going to notice as I take you through this footage that we grow in all manners of containers, raised bed, in ground. We are really trying to expand and improve our growing space as much as possible and take advantage of the limited amount of space that we have. And I think you can see that pretty clearly from our footage here. Our house takes up the majority of our property, and we're left with about 0.13 acres to grow on, but that doesn't stop us from growing a substantial amount of food. So the eastern side of our house is where we have a lot of raised beds. That's our primary raised bed and container area. As you can see, again, from our patio garden, we use a lot of 50-gallon drums that we've cut in half. That's our container gardening area. But then along the interior of our house, we have a little patio that we built, but along the interior of our house, we also have areas that are shaded out where we grow quite a few raspberries, black raspberries, heritage red raspberries. So we're growing right up against our house. A lot of raspberries, a lot of brassicas as well, all the way around our house. And a lot of those vegetables that we grow there are more shade-friendly vegetables. Now, in addition to what you see in the drone footage, we've also added quite a few of our green stalk vertical gardens for our vertical gardening setup. And so while you don't see it in this footage, we've added quite a few to our patio as well. So again, we're taking advantage of all the space that we can, even the space that's meant for relaxation. Now, I don't know about you, but I think there's nothing quite as beautiful as a luscious green space in the back of the yard that you can then gather up and consume as well. Now behind that you see our main garden space, and this is really where it all began for us. We started with a little 3x3 raised bed, and we transformed that 3x3 bed into a 40-foot long garden space that was initially 4 feet wide, that was then expanded to 5 feet wide, and then in year 3 we expanded it to 7 feet wide. So now we have about 280 square feet in our main in-ground garden space. Now, as we continue around the corner from that main indoor garden space, this is where we get to our Ruth Stout bed. Now our roost style bed is exactly what it sounds like. It's just hay, lots and lots of hay, and I should add lots and lots of potatoes grown in there year over year. And then we get to our longest raised bed made out of landscaping ties, and that longest raised bed is about 32 feet long. And that's where we've grown so many varieties of potatoes and sweet potatoes and squash and tomatoes over the years. And what you're going to notice for the most part is that we've just left enough space, enough grass for us to have a walkway around through our garden. Oh, and by the way, off to the left-hand side and at our trellis on the west side of our home, that's where we're growing a whole bunch of really, really delicious grapes. Now, in the video that you see from the drone footage, there are, again, 2 spots in our garden that we've expanded that we didn't have at the time of that footage. One of them is behind me, and this is actually the most recent addition to our garden. This front yard garden space added 2 beds, 2 raised beds made out of terrace board. That's how we got the raised bed effect, where last season we grew some potatoes and sweet potatoes, and we also had space for 3 of our green stalk vertical gardens here. So we've got lots of great space here in the front yard on the east side. But then previously we also took down an ash tree. Now the emerald ash borer didn't do us any favor because it was one of my favorite trees that I've had on a property that wasn't a fruit tree. Well, the emerald ash borer came and killed our tree, so we had them cut it down, use a stump grinder to grind everything out. In the end, we used that as a really nice mulch and also as a way to line the paths of our front yard space that has a bunch of smaller beds in it. And this is now the 3rd season we've been growing in that front yard garden space. So really, all around our property, there is a minimal amount of grass and a maximum amount of vegetation that we can eat. So we've got lots of fruits, vegetables that are growing all around the exterior. And I would say we've also got some hay bales that we set up along the inside of our driveway as well. So any space that we can, we're always looking for new ideas, we're expanding and we're trying to develop into gardening space. So that's what we have to work with. And I want to make this really clear. We started from a 3x3, that's 9 square feet of gardening space. And now the entirety of our exterior has been dedicated to growing the food that our family needs to eat. And I'm fortunate enough to be a teacher, which means that my summers are available when it comes to being out here in the garden. Because believe me when I say, when you are trying to grow this much food in this kind of space in this many varieties of ways, it's going to take quite a bit of time every single summer, but time that is very well spent. Now, this video may not be anything new to some of you because you may be familiar with the channel. You may have been a part of some of our tours in the past, and you've seen as I'm harvesting massive amounts of vegetables and fruit in one of our big harvest videos. Or maybe you're brand new to Guten Gardening, brand new to this channel, and this is the first time you're seeing our layout here in this format. Either way, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at what we have here for space. And maybe as you become more familiar with our layout, more familiar with our channel and some of the videos that we're going to be producing in the near future, you'll have some inspiration, some garden inspiration. And I'm not sure there's much of anything better than a little garden inspiration right there alongside of all that lush greenery that you can eat. Well, for those of you brand new to Guten Gardening, welcome. For those of you who have been here before, thank you so much for being here again. Well, we're just excited to share what we have, what we're learning, what we're doing with all of you. And we hope to talk to you again in the very near future.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. Oh, and again and again and again, I got to remember to click that setting. All right, everybody. Wow, what a great garden there over at Guten Gardening, man. That's a great use of space. It's just one of those things that, I'm always talking about here on the Urban Gardener channel as well, too, about utilizing space. We're all about small space gardening. And man, that is a very good use of space. I'm really, really excited to kind of follow along throughout the season now with Paul from Guten Gardening on our In the Garden segment too. So he'll be joining with us again on our 4th Sundays of the month and sharing with us all about what's growing on in his garden. And again, too, like all of our guests and as well, there are links down in the description below. There's a link there for Guten Gardening. If you haven't had a chance to go check him out, go subscribe to his channel and see what else he's got growing on there as well too. Right on. Lots and lots going on. Like I said, here we've got plenty going. Were you guys here yesterday for the Saturday show? We had a great conversation yesterday with Mr. Joseph Lofthouse, author of the book Land Race Gardening. We talked all about land race gardening, basically adaptive agriculture, kind of some things that I think a lot of us gardeners kind of maybe already experience and have kind of done already as seed savers and things like that. But we really got to explore and kind of really get into really what a lot of that is about as well too with Joseph. Plus we got to meet Brandy from the Suburban Gardenista as well too. It was really fun to check her out in her channel and talk with her about all of her garden and the things growing on over there. We did talk a lot about natives. We talked a lot about natives. So that's something that we've had several guests on here recently and in the months past too, talking a lot about the importance of natives. So hopefully you're working or maybe thinking about including some sort of native plants or some sort of things into your garden spaces too as well. So I highly encourage that. That was a great conversation. You want to go back and check that out. Also too, we had Joseph. He's an author. We've kind of got an author thing going on in the show right now for sure. We also got last Saturday on the show, we had Jules Acton back on to talk about her book, Oak Lore. This book's really great. Adventures in a World of Extraordinary Trees. It really talks a lot about ancient oaks of the UK, but really it's if you're a tree lover and really just nature and plant lover in general, you would really love that book. Well written, lots of great stories in there too. So a great conversation with Jules about her book, and plus we got to meet Julia Dimecos, the gardening girl. She was back on the show with us again, talking about all the things that she's got growing on and all the awesomeness going on in her garden too. It was a great conversation. You'll definitely want to go back and check that out as well too. Plus, real quick too, last Sunday on the show for the Sunday edition, talking about authors, like I said, the Sunday we do highlight one book every single month for our monthly gardening book club. So each and every third Sunday of the month, we are getting together with author of a really great book that we're featuring each and every month. And last Sunday edition was the third Sunday. So we got together and got to have just a really great conversation with Craig LaHoulier, the author of Epic Tomatoes. I mean, this book is amazing. Epic Tomatoes, like I've said it several times now and talking about this, is one of those books where, you're at the book bookstore, checking out the garden section, and you see that book and it's just like, wow, and you start flipping through the pages and you want to take it home with you. There's so many times I've wanted to do that, but finally I got to go to the bookstore, go grab my own copy and everything, because we had Craig with us here. And that's really a fun thing about the Sunday edition book club that we do each and every month, is that not only we getting to read and really explore a really great book, but we get to talk about that book with the author and my good friend Mr. MBC, who joins with us as well for us as a co-host for our book club too on the Sunday edition. And one other thing too about our Sunday edition too is that you want to stick around to the end of the show on our Sunday edition, because that's when we announce our next book for our next book club, which will be our June selection. And in our June selection, we are going to be featuring the book The Food Forward Garden by Christian Douglas. We're going to have Christian Douglas with us to talk about this really great book, The Food Forward Garden, a complete guide to designing and growing edible landscapes. Just really great book so far. Really, really great. Looking forward to talking to Christian all about this. And again, too, this has probably been one of the more fun things, really. Also I get to hang out with my good friend Mark and everything. We get to talk to all these amazing authors and everything too. So you definitely don't want to miss out on our book club, if anything, for sure. And get yourself a copy of that Food Forward Garden and come join with us the third Sunday of June, which I believe is June 15th, which will be Father's Day. So we'll be celebrating Father's Day together here, talking about this really great, wonderful book. Right on, everybody. Lots and lots going on around here on the show. It is about time now for us to get started with this Sunday's Garden Roundtable. All right. For this week's Garden Roundtable, I've invited back to the show from New Garden Road, we've got with us Scott Blackburn. And from the Garden Nerd, we got with us Michael Overstreet. Well, hey guys, how's it going? It's great to have you back.
What's going on?
How's it going?
Good. Excited to be here.
Right on. Excellent. Great to have you all here with us. And like I said, it's been really enjoying these conversations where we get to have you guys back and get you guys to get together and everything. So real quick introduction here for you guys. Michael, we got Scott, Michael, and hopefully have a really great conversation today where we're talking about what does our garden say about us? But before we get into that question, guys, I want to give you guys a minute here real quick each to just introduce yourselves to the audience, let them know about yourselves and your channels and all of that as well, too. And we'll go ahead and we'll get started with our good friend Michael there over at the Garden Nerd.
All right. So, hey, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me back. My name is Michael, the self-proclaimed garden nerd, because I nerd out over this stuff. Love talking about it. I am in Mesa, Arizona, very hot in the Sonoran Desert. I just love growing anything and everything. The fruit is honestly just the cherry on top, if you will. But the actual growing process is what gives me so much joy. And that's what I try to spread through my channel, is allowing as many people as possible to have the confidence to go out and grow stuff so that they can experience the joy that I experience when I garden and grow things in my own yard.
Man, that's great. And again, too, one of the reasons why I knew I had to ask you back, man, because it was very similar when it comes to that. We just nerd out on this stuff. I consider myself a garden nerd as well, too. And yeah, definitely great. How about you over there, Scott, at New Garden Road?
Yeah, well, I answered the question in the chat. What does your garden say about you? And quite frankly, I think I'm obsessed. Now, I think there's going to be some different takes on that if you're looking from the outside. But, I got this property 18 years ago, and I knew I wanted to get my hand in the soil. And I grew up around gardening. I had some fresh food throughout the summer, a little bit, which, I kind of took for granted, didn't really realize. But having some homegrown food on your dinner plate uh, is
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to do, along with just planting and growing whatever I could get my hands on, was grow some food, and that has really been the whole way that I've expanded my garden. And I went to uh, a local garden center called the Natural Gardener. Got started, made a couple of small herb beds, barely scratched the soil, and I went to a class there on square foot gardening, and that's when I really kind of just lost it. And in about a year, I had 22 raised beds, and I was doing the grids and all this stuff, and been 100% organic the whole time.
Yeah.
But really have gone into a place of garden ecology and understanding these relationships. And I really wanted to help people who are moving to our Central Texas region. I'm in Austin. Be able to adapt, because if you're from Wisconsin or North Carolina, like I was seeing what was growing up there in Guten Gardening, and I'm like, wow, I wish I could grow some raspberries. You can't do that here. I'm sure in Mesa, Arizona, it's kind of like similar and different to what
Yep.
we got, because we've been like 99, 100 degrees for the last week. So helping people orient to the place so that they could grow some of their own nutritious foods, support wildlife, and just have some joy, find some joy.
Yeah, yeah, I totally, and I get it, and that's just, and it's so natural of us, though, too, in a way, when we find that joy in our garden spaces, that just, in some senses, an obsession, right? That comes about in us, that just boom, once it gets going and everything, and then there's just this point where we start gaining enough, and we start knowing and enough of what we're doing, and now it just becomes so overwhelming, and we kind of want to share. That's something I
Yeah.
find so
Yep.
common with gardeners, and I think that's why there's so many out there of us who are out there just kind of sharing our experiences and stuff, because there's just some need to do that and stuff, and it's really great that you guys are out there doing that as well too, because gardening is just great, and there's so many things to nerd out about it when it comes down to it, and so many benefits, so many cool things and all of that. But like I said, today, we are talking about on the Sunday Roundtable, and this is actually kind of, I'm trying to do this is something I think people who have been watching the show kind of know too, is that we kind of try to have these general conversations, and that's basically what this is ultimately. But I was thinking, we really need to kind of have some little themes to kind of run by to get us started and everything. So we've kind of been doing that. So for today's Sunday Roundtable, I'm asking, what does your garden say about you? And that's not just for us here in the conversation between us here right now, but that's also for all of you who are watching as well too out there. Jump into the comments, jump into the chat right now, and let me know, what does your garden say about you? I mean, if you look, if you were someone just walking by somewhere, you know what I mean? If you just didn't know your garden at all, and you were just walking by, what would you say, in your own opinion about yourself, though, too? What does your garden say about you? And I'll kind of kick it off, and I'll just say right now, my garden is, I think, literally, too, some ways, too, we can say, and you ever heard that saying, and sometimes it's kind of true if you look at it too. You see a couple of people walking, or you see a person walking their dog or something like that. That dogs and their owners kind of, there's something that looks alike or something that people go into.
Yep.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's something about our gardens as well that are similar. Like our gardens kind of
Mm,
have this reflection and a sense of kind
Hmm.
of who we are in a way, right?
yeah.
If you were to walk by my garden, and a lot of people do, because my garden's very public facing. So I live along alleyways. So I've got alleyway gardens. And in a way, my back patio is pretty much open. We've got, we're going to, like I was saying earlier, we're going to get our rooftop garden going back up again. So it's really viewable from a lot of places as well, too. So in a way, too, so in a way, I would almost say, like, my garden almost says, like, for one is, um variation. I like a lot of different stuff, and a lot of, just, but also I'm kind of scattered too, because I do a little bit of this, and then I do a little bit of this, and a little bit of that. And I also kind of consider myself to be a little of that kind of almost, I don't know, undiagnosed in a way, but maybe ADHD in some sort of way, if that's the right term or not. I don't want to really offend anybody, but who does. But the point of like that, I'm just erratic. I'm all over the place. I have to be doing maybe a little bit of this, and then I got to go over and do a little bit of that, and I got to do a little bit of that. If you looked at my garden space, you would kind of see that, right? Here's a little pile of weeds because he was starting some weeding over here. And then here's this going on over here because he's planting or setting up this over here, all that sort of stuff. So in a way, I mean, people would walk by my garden and go, man, there is a lot going on here. What about you guys?
Awesome.
What do you guys think about what does your garden say about you? How about you, Michael?
Yeah, so I would say very similar to you, and we're probably all a little bit similar, but probably
Mhm.
chaotic and like mad
Yes.
scientist, like laboratory, right?
There you go. Yep.
Especially here in the desert Southwest where it's very hot. And if you want things to thrive, really, we plant things very, very close together. So I'm out here like, oh, there's a
Mm.
2 foot space right there. Let me throw a mango seedling in there. Or, there's this spot over here. Let me grow some watermelon. Or, I'm just throwing anything and everything, and maybe it will work, maybe it won't,
Mhm.
but I love testing things out, right? That's the real way that you grow and you learn and you gain that experience as a grower and as a gardener, is just trying things out. I love to watch
Mhm.
other gardeners on YouTube. I love to read books about it, but at the end of the day, I love just to go and try it out myself.
Mm.
Um, and to that point, I've killed a lot of things, a lot of plants, but also because of that, I've learned a lot. And so I just love getting out in the yard and just testing things out, trying things out, growing things very close together, and just seeing what works. And that's really the message that I try to like push to other people as well, is like, hey, don't be scared to just try things out. If you kill something, oh well.
Yeah.
Now you learned what doesn't work, and what you need to do next time. And now next time it's going to work out
Mhm.
even better. So I
Yeah.
would say that that's what my yard would say about me, is just a little chaotic, and just trying to figure out what works.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really thought-provoking question, quite honestly, because I think about my garden quite differently than what somebody else's impression is going to be. They're going to look at it, and I think they're going to say it's got some organized elements to it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of container grown plants, a lot of raised beds. Um, I'm always thinking about the things that I need to catch up on, or what's a mess, or what do I have to do before I can do the task that I'm trying to do. It's like I have these things all stacked up. But primarily, I like engineering things with whatever I have, and sometimes that can be things that I acquire over time, like bamboo. I've made a giant, overhead bamboo shade structure that I put shade cloth on top of, and this is not like the most sound structure that it could be. It could have cost, I could have spent thousands of dollars putting that up there, but I was like, okay, I don't have that much money. It's going to
Mhm.
be 100 plus degrees for however long, and I want to get out here and enjoy my time in the garden. So after years of doing these low tunnels, uh it got to the point where I was like, this doesn't work in the summer, I can't see. So I developed a system with some metal stakes, bamboo, and zip ties, some metal wire, and I've got shade cloth over it. So systems, engineering systems, I really like that process focused aspect of gardening. um but I think what people see, is part of the structure and the organization. And with the raised beds, that really kind of follows on the heels of, trying to grow as much as I can, food wise in my backyard with like a square foot gardening system, which, I play with, I've deviated from, over the years. I've just tried all different kinds of things, but also like I tried to organize my garden so my dogs could run around. Like
Yeah.
I wanted it to
Mhm.
be a racetrack for my dogs.
There you
I had
go.
I had 2 dogs at one point, now I'm down to 1. So it was a space for them, they could cut through, and I was lucky I didn't have dogs that would like run and dig up my plants and things like that.
Right.
So honestly, it's a reflection of, kind of my lifestyle and my interests. My dad has taught me so much about, trying things, even if you don't know what you're doing. It kind of goes
Yeah.
along with what you said about, learning through failure or losing. It's like you just got to start and you got to figure stuff out. So I really have taken that into my gardening practice and just not looked back. It's like, how am I going to build a trellis? Okay, that trellis was too big. It fell over. It wasn't sturdy enough, like, so
Yeah.
definitely a good question. I could probably answer it differently, different times a year. I have high expectations. I want it to look really beautiful and inspire me and inspire others. And I think it does, but I kind of feel like I'm always like not quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something to that though. I'm always I think as we think about our gardens and stuff, because it is a year to year thing, and if we've been doing it a while, I kind of feel like I've been in that not quite there through the whole process almost. It's just every time I think I'm there, it's like, oh well, no, I'm not quite there yet. There's more going on here and all of that. And I did like that one point you made there too, because I think that was something maybe I wasn't thinking about too. If I was looking at my garden space as well too, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly if someone who's just walking by would think about it at all, but if you were really to examine and be looking at my garden space, you'd be like, oh, this guy does things on a budget. You know what I mean? This guy must not have very, you know what I mean? I'm not buying a lot of stuff. So that's kind of what my gardening style is what can I do that's really inexpensive? And again, coming back to that point of learning things in the process of what we're growing that we want to share with people. And that was a big thing for me too early on was look at all I've figured out how to do. And it didn't really cost me very much is what you see all for, a lot of all of the other things that are available out there. So a lot of new gardeners get caught up in the expenses of things and stuff. So I thought it was kind of important to get out there and say, hey, it doesn't really have to cost a lot to garden at all. So I think that was a big thing as well too. And there we go.
Yeah.
I just dropped out. I'll be back.
Let me.
Anyways, guys, there you go. Boy, oh boy, we're like every other show now. I think this thing's been doing this thing to me. But anyways, at least it's not dropping me completely out yet. That still yet could happen. So watch out. You might be hosting the show. All right. But anyways, no, really, really great. Like I said, that's something. It's kind of something though when we kind of take a look at those spaces like that though too, and just think about how what it is and how it reflects on us. And also there's another important things you both brought up there, and you were finishing up with too, and maybe we can kind of dig in a little bit too, because I think it kind of correlates a little bit with what I was talking to people about yesterday on the show. I ran into a situation this last week where, again, we want to share, we want to help people, and especially who are really, really into gardening. I want my neighbors to garden. I want my friends to garden. I want everybody to garden and all of that, and I want to be helpful and be able to help them do that. Right. But there's a point within trying to help people. We have to understand when we got to step back too. Right. Because sometimes people really, have kind of an idea and they're going to, and I find this really in the case of more younger folks though, too, really, but most people in general, there is just something about the idea of just diving in, and it's great. That's a great idea. Just dive in, just get going, just get started, get doing what you're doing. And even if you got that neighbor like me, who's there saying, hey, here's a good bit of advice, you don't necessarily have to listen to him either. It's kind of what my point was, ultimately was that, you can just jump in there and do that. And even if I've got also as a person who has a bit of knowledge, has got to kind of step back a little bit too. Right. Because, maybe they do need to just kind of jump in and go through that process. Right. So in this case, my neighbors are really great. We got this Bermuda grass, which is the most awful, baneful thing you've ever seen in your world. And they went about just chopping that stuff up with a tiller in their garden space back there, which is going to cause some really big problems, as we all know, down the road and everything. But I advised, and it was like, I would, but they had to go and they had to jump in and do that and get started, and wanted to get their plants in right away and do all that sort of stuff. So more power to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Oh no,
I'm sorry. I got to get better at that, you guys. Yeah, Scott, we'll go ahead there. I'm sorry. I need to direct it.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, like you have to let people, go on their own journey. I always really try to emphasize, start small for people that are new to it, particularly in in Central Texas, with, some limited resources and really extreme environmental trends that, if you start small and kind of get the hang of the ebbs and flows, then that can set you up, to be more successful. And one of the things that I also try to do with my YouTube channel is demonstrate, with video and photography, what some of these things look like, because we can talk about it and you can tell someone how to do it. And that's one level. But when you kind of show them specific examples, that helps. But again, it's ultimately like, you got to get out there and do it, because you have to form your own relationship with it, develop your own system, because the way I do it might end up being completely different from how you two do it, and we're all successful, but we get there in our own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And it kind of going to, the theme, everybody's garden is their own, and it's their own journey. And like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
none of us are all the way there yet with our garden.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
continuously evolving, right? And that's one thing I love about gardening and growing is in life, a lot of times, like, we have the final destination and we're not happy until we get there. But in
Yeah.
growing, there's no final destination, right? We're just enjoying the process as we go through it, knowing that we're never going to get to that final destination, but that's okay. And that's why I love growing. And so I
Yeah.
think, yes, we have to leave everybody to figure out what their journey is, and what experience they want to have. I've had multiple people come to me, a year after I got them into growing, and they're like, "How come you never told me that?" And I'm like, "Well, first of all, there's tens of thousands of things to tell you, so I can't tell you everything. But second
Yeah,
of all,
right.
you got to figure it out yourself, because it's so much more meaningful, and you can decide the direction you want
Yeah.
to go in if you figure it out yourself."
Mm.
So that's why,
Mm-hmm.
going back to my initial, where I talked about my channel, that's why my main goal is just to inspire people to get started.
Yeah.
And then from there, let them figure it out and create their own journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then maybe in the long run though too, and I think what, my final point on that, what yesterday was, is that, again, they're set on their journey, that sort of thing. And you can, the best you can do at that point is be there now for them when they come to you, realizing maybe that, okay, to which the advice you gave them, and maybe, some things, and for some of us too, there was maybe some advice I didn't heed early on in my garden. I had to learn, and that sort of stuff, that I don't know, we call it the hard way, but maybe it's the right way. You know what I mean? When it comes down to it, in this sort of process, because you made a great point ultimately to what we were talking about before, is, again, we're not looking for a final destination here. We're looking for a journey that's going to keep going and going and going. So, however we get started, more power to us. But again, as the neighbor, and they know I've got some a little bit of knowledge, and they can see my gardens growing and all of that. And so when they've got questions, I'll be there to help them answer them. But I'm going to sit back and watch the journey, and all of that, even though it's kind of tough when you're sitting back. It's hard.
Mm.
This is a thing, as a
Yeah.
person with experience, you sit back and you watch this poor young man and his brand new little tiller he got, and he's just ripping and ripping these Bermuda grass into a million new plants, and
Mm.
you're like, oh. But at the same time, you're like, again, you don't sit back and just let someone do it, in the sense of like, oh, you just wait and see. You know what I mean? It's more of
Right.
just letting them have their journey, because again, we got to start somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many times I've referred to it as my gardening practice,
Mm,
and that's what I'm doing. I'm practicing gardening, even though I've
yeah.
been doing it, a long time. I'm still practicing. And I think about some of the things that I used to do early on. Like, I used to be more adherent to crop rotation and organic, pesticides. I would apply, some neem oil, or, every now and then I'd do some spinosad. But now I don't do either one of those things. I've completely abandoned it. I'm focused on soil health, soil ecology, understanding those relationships to how I can set the stage for the garden to grow as it's, as the plants they already have all the information and the genetics to do what we want them to do. Is just about kind of setting the stage so it can play out. But the other thing that was coming to mind while y'all were talking was the question of what are you willing to do as a gardener? Because
Yeah.
you see my garden, it's been happening for 18 years. This is not day one. That big shade structure I talked about, that's crazy. You don't have to measure, up to someone else. It's like, what are you willing to do? I have X amount of hours. I have the weekends, make it appropriate for you in that way, because that's really going to help you be successful.
That's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
That's a great point, Scott. Like I've seen people that, they have 4 pots on their patio growing a few herbs, and to them, that's their whole garden and they love it. And that brings them so much joy. And that's all the time that they have.
Mm,
And that's all the space they have, right?
Yeah.
And then there's someone like you or whoever else who has maybe acres and acres, and that's okay. And I think that's one thing that everybody has to realize, like you can be very happy and proud of your small 4-pot garden or your huge 4-acre garden, right?
mm.
It all varies and it doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to do. So that's a great point, Scott.
Yeah, yeah. I do like that. I like the term, and I think that's probably it just made me think of this too while you were saying that though. It's probably the best use of the term practice, I think, too, as a gardener. I mean, if you say it, I have my gardening practices. That just makes a lot of sense. Now, when I go see my doctor, I don't want to go to a doctor who's practicing.
You don't want him to have the same philosophy I do. If it dies, it dies. I'll get another one.
Yeah, you want an expert or a master when you go to the doctor, but on the gardener point, it's like, I don't. People throw around those kind of terms from time to time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. I'm not a
No.
master gardener. I know what I know. I know what I do, and I also know that I have so much more to learn.
Yeah.
And that said, I have so many things outside of my control, when it comes to the climate and the weather, and the time that I have, with the
Yeah.
full-time job, like putting this together. It's like, so I've tried to learn to kind of let that go. But it's, it's the capacity for us to give back to our spaces, to nature, on whatever level is appropriate for us, whether it's like a few pots of herbs, or a big farm, that all makes ripples. And that's really what I'm a big advocate for, is everyone doing something on a measure that's appropriate for them, because I think it raises awareness, it enhances our mental health, and it really connects us to those ecological cycles. And so as we come face to face with choices in our daily life, maybe we can reflect more on those things and go, you know what, I don't think this is good for the environment or something along those lines, because you've had some experience on connecting to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Again, too, coming back to that we're not going towards a destination somewhere, that sort of thing. This is a journey. We're on it and everything. And even some of the, the more aged gardeners I talked to, we had just Craig Lillier on this last week, author of Epic Tomatoes. I don't know if you guys have seen that book before, but amazing book. But he was talking about, I'm 70 and all of this sort of stuff, and I'm still learning. You know what I mean? We get Gardner Scott on with us each and every month and everything too. And for everybody who watches the Sunday edition, usually we got him coming back. He'll be back to talk all about his trip in the UK here real soon. So, but he, another, older gentleman who's constantly tells people that, hey, I'm still learning and I'm on a journey, and that sort of thing, and continually finding more and more inspiration to learn more within the garden itself, in that, in the connection with nature we get out of it as well. I did like that point also you made too, Michael, about, some folks, just only have a couple of things growing, and this is something I also tell people a lot too, is that even if you do really only have a spot to grow one little thing, and usually and I usually say one thing of food really is what I encourage people, because I think that's grow something you can eat to empower yourself. And even if you're growing one thing for yourself that you end up consuming, there's just a bit of empowerment that comes from it and satisfaction and all of that. But even that one plant could be just enough of a garden for somebody as well too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's all
Agree.
the time they have is, they only got a minute
Yep.
just to put some water there, or maybe a little fertilizer today, or whatever, and that's all they can do is handle that one,
Yeah.
but still get that connection with a plant or a garden anyways, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm
That's
like,
this is why I love the gardening community, right? Because it doesn't matter, like there's no judging, there's no like, flexing your muscles, things to that nature. If I ever meet a gardener that's like, yeah, I'm a master gardener and I have the best yard and I know what I'm doing, I'm like, yeah, you're not a real gardener. You're not actually the type of person I want to talk with, right? But
right.
most true gardeners and growers are the most
Mhm.
humble. And
Yeah,
the ones that I've met that actually know the most are the most humble and
yeah,
say they're the ones that know the least, right?
Mm.
yeah.
So that's why I love this community, because it's really just a big community where we can help each other. Because again, if you are a true grower and gardener, you understand the peace and happiness that it brings and why you're in this hobby to begin with.
Mm,
And you can sit down.
yeah.
I mean, my wife laughs at me. There's times where I have 75-year-old women in my backyard walking around my yard and we're talking like we're best friends, right? And then the
Yeah.
very next weekend, I could have, I don't know, a 25-year-old guy in my yard and we're having the same type of conversation. So it's just so
Mhm.
cool to be able to share that across all age groups and genders, and just really connect with a singular purpose.
Mm. And
Yeah, that's a
the
good point.
stories that come together around gardening, like I have a lot of connections to like my family, my parents, my grandparents. Like I didn't know my mother's mother, but I know she loved tropical hibiscus and some daylilies. So I always have
Mm,
those growing in my garden, and just like the stories that come up when you have those conversations in your garden with people really take you to so many places, and that's just like general life enrichment, and also really grounds us in the practice overall.
Agree.
yeah.
Speaking on that real quick, my
Fun.
grandpa, before he passed away, he gave me some hollyhock seeds from his own yard,
Oh, nice.
and I threw those down, and now every year, they just reseed by
Mm.
themselves. Every year they come up, and it's like, hey, this is great. It reminds me of my grandpa every single year when I see them come up, and it's fun to share that story with people that come in and look at my yard.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the big reasons why I really wanted to start this whole show though too, was the idea of, having you folks on to tell these stories. You know what I mean? Because I think it's just great to hear what our backgrounds are that get us to the place where we are garden nerds, and you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that there's a process, there's a journey in that too that comes from it. And then some of those stories start with our families or start with some other really cool places, and I consider mine too. It might not be the same, whereas I do remember growing some tomatoes with my grandmother once. That's probably as close as I got to it, and that was probably like one summer, I think, when I was younger, a teenager or something. And I think it was more of a like, hey, if you go and weed this out, I'll give you $5 or something. So that was my gardening with my grandma experience kind of thing as far as that goes. But again, too, I'll also tell people, hey, maybe you're new to gardening, maybe you don't have that experience at all, too, but start building some stories, right? Like for me
Hmm.
now, I didn't get to share, and I didn't come to food gardening and the kind of gardening I do today with my daughter when she was growing up. But now I have a granddaughter now. This last year was born, and she's now going to be a year now. And so I'm now seeing how fast and steadfastly it's going to be that I'm going to be having her in the garden and teaching her how to sow seeds and doing all that sort of stuff and really building that family history. So maybe someday down the road, she's going to say, oh man, I remember gardening with my granddad, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
They'll they'll
Those sort
remember
of,
it.
it works all the way around. So there's stories that may have come from our past and our garden history, or maybe there's stories we've yet to tell, right?
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
it's funny because my kids are always like, "Oh, dad's talking about growing things again." And sometimes they act like they're annoyed, but then when there's people over at our house,
Oh,
it's
yes.
funny, they'll walk around and be like, and that's a mango tree, and that's a
Yep.
moringa tree, and you can eat the, and they like start telling them everything, where I thought when I tell them they're not listening, it's going in
Yep.
one ear and out the other, but they actually
Mm,
are internalizing it and
Mhm.
they understand. And it's really funny to watch them walk around and give tours of the yard.
Oh
yep.
my gosh, I
Yep.
love that.
My daughter has done that too as well. She's been touching on. She's asked me a couple of times, but hasn't really pushed the like I'm ready to do it yet. But it's kind of like, oh, I'm thinking about growing something. I'm thinking about doing that. I've got her on some house plants now. So, maybe in the next year or two she'll be gardening too. And again, that also another thing too comes with becoming a new parent. A lot of folks also get into growing gardens because they start learning about food when they're feeding their children and become new parents, right?
Mm.
So a lot of new parents get into gardening as well too. So I'm kind of starting to see that kind of process working in her mind right now too. So maybe we'll be
It's cool.
building some of those stories as well coming up the next year and have her with my granddaughter together learning how to grow things and stuff. But yeah, it's good
What a
stuff.
It's
thing
awesome.
to what a thing to take on simultaneously, being a new parent and gardening. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
right.
I'm not a
Exactly.
parent, but I'm a 9-time uncle, so I see it,
Nice.
uh, and I know that's a
That's good.
lot. So
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. Especially, yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably why she hasn't jumped quite into it yet, but I can see it brewing because she's thinking about stuff because she's always been thinking about the food. The food thing's an
Mm,
issue already because that's
Yep.
just hits automatically right away. What am I feeding my baby? So that's an immediate concern that you can see she's processing things. So the point of like, okay, now maybe growing that stuff myself, because I'm sure what's going to end up happening too this year is there'll be a lot of coming over to harvest things from my garden so she can get some natural clean food and things that she can process for my granddaughter. So and I think we'll get her hooked at that point.
There you go.
that's it.
But I do, but she's done that same stuff to me, Michael. You know what I mean? I know I've seen that. She's had friends over while she's here or something like that. And oh, come check this out. You won't believe what he's got growing over here. Have you ever seen anything
Exactly.
like this? And wow, and I'm like, I don't have
Yep.
to do tours of my garden with her friends. She does them for me, and
Yeah.
it's great.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Mm.
That is great. That's great. Let's talk about your gardens a little bit, guys. I mean, we're talking about all this sort of stuff, but let's get into what's growing on right now this year. How about for you, Michael? Again, uh,
Yeah.
what's growing on right now? What do you got going on in that garden right now?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's funny, obviously, we're down here in the Sonoran Desert where it's a lot hotter.
Yes,
When you started the show, you were talking about like, "Hey, the last frost is
I
finally
know.
over," and I'm like, "Man, that was like, I don't know, 3 months ago for me."
I know. I
So,
know. And
we're
it was
we're in
barely
the
it was barely anything to begin with, was it?
Exactly, exactly. We're in the time of year now where it's like, all right, the heat is upon us. If you didn't sow seeds a month ago, yeah, you're probably out of luck to sow a lot of seeds now. Although there still are some things you can do. But I have corn growing, I have sweet potatoes going, I have watermelon that's really coming in, I have tomatoes that are really coming in. Um, but my main thing that I do, and that I'm kinda known for throughout the summer is mangoes. Like, I love mangoes. So
Mm,
last summer, I mail ordered mangoes from Florida. I got a new box of about a dozen every single week. Um,
yeah.
I ate them, and then I planted the seedlings, right? So all throughout, last fall, I planted a ton of mango seedlings, so I probably have 20, probably a little more, 20 to 30 just little tiny mango seedlings,
Yeah.
that are now that it's heating up, they're really starting to take off,
Oh
which
yeah.
is really
Mm.
exciting. And I have a few other mature mango trees where I have a couple dozen mangoes hanging on the
Oh,
trees, which
okay.
I can't wait for. Um, but
Man.
I'm doing the same thing again this year, mail ordering mangoes, planting the
Yeah.
seeds, and I love to do that in my own yard, but also anytime I go and like teach a class at a nursery or do a consultation, I always bring along a seedling to people. People
Nice.
love to do that,
Yeah.
and give them the mango seedlings. So this is
That's
my
good.
time of year. A lot of times in this area, people shut down in the summer and say it's too hot to
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
I say if you're growing the right thing and if you've built the right microclimate, you can still continue to grow throughout the summer.
Mm.
There's
Mhm.
certain things like mangoes that love the heat, so
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it's a fun time.
Yeah. There's definitely varieties of different things as well too that are more heat tolerant than other things. It's something I've had to really explore more in my tomato growing here in
Hmm.
this area.
Hmm.
Which was a real bummer to lose my tomato crop. That was on time versus. So again, thanks Adam for being to the rescue. But so I'll get something going anyways. But yeah, it's something I've had to do is look more for. And another great thing too is Adam's just right up the road. He's been growing these varieties. He knows the ones that's going to do well for me. So this is going to be great as well too. But it's something I've been exploring the last season or two. Are these looking for more heat tolerant variety types that I can grow and get production out of throughout the season, because it's starting to get really hot around here as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in
And
Southern
that's one.
Oregon. I'm in a valley, and it's like a big old bowl. And when the summer gets going, it just starts cooking. And it's been
Oh,
getting
yeah.
more and more so each and every year. In fact, um, here we are last frost date. We worry about it here because it could and potentially some years frost on us a day or two after. Like I said earlier, it's happened to me just a couple of seasons ago. So we can worry about all of that. But then what we also have is this crazy thing is that as soon as the last frost date hits, and I'm looking at the weather report, and this has been each of, most of the last few years, is summer just drops on us like a hat. I mean, it's going to be in the 90s here this next week.
Yeah.
Last
It's
frost
fast.
day, upper 90s, right? Wow.
It's crazy.
So it gets really warm. So we got to find some varieties that can handle that sort of stuff. But you can grow things. It's just kind of tough for some stuff. But if you're taking some measures and doing some stuff, again, creating some good microclimates. And again, another thing was a part of the topic we were talking with Joseph yesterday about, in a way, growing varieties that and just letting them grow through seasons and saving seeds. You'll start getting
Yes.
varieties are now more tolerant to those heat, because it's going to start, those genetics are going to start creating that tolerance in that new seed that you're getting in those coming seasons. And we were talking, I guess it'll take about 3 seasons. It's going to be rough, a couple of seasons with those plants and what you're going to get, but you can get some good plants growing in a lot of places where they wouldn't normally or aren't doing very well for you that first year. Keep with it, save seeds, you can get them doing really well in about 3 seasons. I thought that was so
100%.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seed saving is something I've always been attracted to, increasingly more passionate about, and never more so than this season. So I've always grown a lot of variety. Like I couldn't choose which type of okra I wanted to grow. So I would grow 5 or 6 varieties, which is great. You get to experience them all. But if you want to save seeds, you think about isolation. So I've been forcing myself to kind of hone in, and really for the first time, I've done summer crops, saved seeds from, long beans and zinnias and things of that nature for a long time. But winter crops, one of the things that's unique here, we used to be able to get started in September and October. Now the heat's pushing deeper into the season, so much more difficult to get things established. Usually by the end of December, the winter garden is thriving, and it's still probably, maybe 80 degrees. But I focused on the Utopian Ultra Cross collards, and I tried to grow out about 16 or 20 plants of those. And the thing that I'm learning, which I think I want to convey to others, is that seed saving is a great practice, but there's really so many levels to it. Like if I'm growing some beans, I need maybe 20 feet of isolation. That's fairly easy to do between varieties. And if you have a small garden, you can pull it off. But looking at things like the brassicas, the kale, the cauliflower, the collards, you need much more space. So I really had to be careful when some of my others, kale and things, were flowering. I had to go ahead and pull them back. But also those collard green plants getting 5 or 6 feet tall, looking really ugly, I mean, I'm just now taking them down because they're starting to dry down on the plant. So they're taking up space. They don't look good. They're covered in harlequin bugs. I'm thinking, what am I doing? Like, I started on this journey with all these intentions of, finding, something that's better adapted to my growing region and being able to share that with others. But there's so much to it. All right.
There is. Yeah, there can be.
It's made me late. I've been late planting my spring and my summer garden, but I've got, the tried and true sweet potatoes, okra, only one variety this season. I'm going with the bowling red, and I've got some southern peas, the big red rippers that I've grown for years and saved for my garden, some long beans and some greens. Like, I really like the callaloo amaranth. That one also will volunteer for me. So it's like, I don't have to worry about planting it on time. I just have to be able to identify it and, work around it. So that, along with, I'm harvesting beets, carrots, potatoes. So, but I was out there working some seeds earlier today, doing some dry winnowing on some Ethiopian kale, which is one I hope to kind of adapt to our region. I really like the growth habit of that one. It's kind of upright, has some big leaves. It's kind of unique. But it's definitely given me some unique challenges that maybe didn't anticipate, that I think are good to share with others, because, my garden's kind of an experiment. It's a proving ground. I want to grow food, but I also want to grow, food that is better adapted, to my region. Because we don't get a lot of rain consistently, and it could be months without measurable rain, and we definitely get the heat. So what does better in that? Maybe I'm starting from some seeds that came from Virginia or, Iowa or some other place, but I need to try to get them a little bit more honed into Central Texas, and understanding, just educating myself throughout the season. So like, oh, maybe I follow one crop, learn, get the hang of that. Like, and I will do multiples. And this season, I'm let some lettuce go to seed just to watch it. I probably will save some seeds, but I'm mainly like, okay, when is it drying down? What's happening? And I'm starting to see, it's got these like white fuzzy bits on all the little flowers, and now they're starting to fall off, and I can see the seeds, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like, I might have tried to pull it earlier, but I just like letting it happen. So certainly takes some experimentation, but and I have 25 container grown citrus trees. That's kind of like my mango. I've been growing those for around 14 years. So those are looking pretty good this year. Working on some pruning, some shaping, keeping them fed, and definitely getting them under the shade.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Lots of, great points there too, when it comes to the seed saving as well, because it's true, seed saving is great. I love the practice. I love to do it. And I, as far as certain things, I definitely make sure I save seed from. Some things I don't, those are things I've kind of learned as well too, in doing that over the years. The big point there is that, one of the things too is it does take time and space. So when you're going to save seed, you're going to be letting a plant mature beyond where you would normally, from where it's going to harvest. So it's going to take up that space. It's going to take up time, and so for a lot of stuff, I try to keep simple, like the lettuces. Those, I'll grow like 2-3 varieties of lettuce, and I'll pick 1 or 2 of them. I'll let go to seed, and just let those ones go. So I'm only, and just try to keep 1 or 2, because lettuce is one of those ones that just, I feel it's best, it's good to have new seed when it comes to that year after year, when it comes to lettuce. So lettuce is a good one to kind of save seed from, maybe let it take up that little bit of space to do that. Radishes. I always talk about radishes. Radishes are my favorite when it comes to seed saving. Because you can get a whole second crop of a whole nother food off of radish is in your seed saving process. So it's kind of like a 3-stage process for me, where you grow all these delicious radishes, then I let a handful of them go to seed, and then when they start producing all those seed pods, And we go in for another harvest of all these delicious little young seed pods that are just, I mean, they're fantastic. One of my favorite things, actually. So you get this whole other crop of something off of them, and then you pull, you know, those ones you harvest all the little seed pods off, and then I leave like one of them or two of them, maybe, you know, per variety if I got a couple of varieties, and then I'll do that. So I'm like trying to make sure I'm minimizing just down to a couple, just a few varieties, a few things. Peas, I love those for microgreens, so I'll make sure I grow a bunch of peas for seed, that sort of stuff, you know. But yeah, it can be, you know, there can be a process to it, and it's going to take time and space out of your garden for other things. So you do have to make that kind of sacrifice along with it. And that's a great point.
Yeah. Hey, I love letting things go to seed just because the wildlife loves it, right? Like the bees
Right.
and everything.
Yeah.
That's cool
Mhm.
enough right there for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got one parsley plant that I've just been staring at every time I go out in the garden because it's flowered right now. And I can't, whatever insects are around it won't be still. And it's multiple
Hmm.
species, like these metallic blue, like kind of wasp. And they're all just like flying around it. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah,
I
it's so
wish,
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
When I tore my my broccoli, I let a few go to seed this year, and I
Mm.
felt I had to get my spring garden in, and I felt so bad, like I delayed like 3 weeks because
Yes.
the all the bees and insects and everything that was all around it. And when as I was cutting it down, they were still right there, and I felt so
Yes.
bad. I'm like, I'm so sorry,
Mhm.
guys, but I have to plant my garden.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
plants are in
yeah.
the wheelbarrow and they're like on the flowers. And you're like,
Yes,
whoa.
yes.
And that's another one. And there's another point too when it comes to it is that again, in the process of going to seed, a plant is really in its process of kind of shutting down, right? And so here comes another sense of, you know, you might have a big healthy plant and all of that sort of stuff, but if it's in the process of shutting down, just like any other plant you might be starting that has some sort of defects or problems or some sort of things like that, they're susceptible to pests.
Hmm.
So as a plant that's dying or going to seed is a really susceptible to getting, I mean, like a lot of mine, I have to constantly washing aphids off of them to try to make sure I can,
Hmm.
you know, keep them going if I'm trying to save seed off of them as well too. So that is another thing too, can be difficult because not because as you mentioned, Scott, you got a big ugly plant is dying and there it is too. But then as well too, it's got all these bugs on it trying to attack it, and you take it because it is weak and susceptible and everything, and all you want to do is get those seeds. But then again, you get sometimes you just got to make the sacrifice and go, you know what, I'd rather just be doing something else here, you know.
Yeah.
I'll just go get some
Yep.
seed for this for next year, you know. This is getting to be too much.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, yeah, right on, right on. Excellent, excellent. So yeah, so you guys are growing down there. It's nice and warm and everything in the south and all of that. And what is it? So again, you kind of mentioned that, Michael, you know, it's just you got to work through a warmer time of season. I'm going to be doing that sort of thing and all of that. Are there some kind of things you're implementing in your garden you're doing? You got some shade cloth strategies, or are
Hmm.
you doing some things like that when it comes to your garden?
Yeah, so I love to teach people about this down here in the desert where it's hot. I no longer use shade cloth in
Okay.
my yard, but I think it's very necessary when you're first starting out. But
Okay.
what I love to teach is growing natural microclimates, natural shade cloths. So I'll just give you a quick example. I planted a hedge of mango seedlings that will eventually turn into a hedge.
Mm.
But I planted it just to the north of my huge mulberry tree. And so the reason I did that, I give this example in the winter when it gets cold, those mango trees, they need direct sunlight. They need to get blasted with as much sun as
Right.
possible.
Yep.
So with the mulberry tree, it drops all of its leaves in the winter and it opens it up so the sun comes from the south and just shines down and blasts them with all day sun. They love that during the winter.
Mm.
But then
Okay.
during
Yeah.
the summer, as it gets hotter, right, they're gonna want some filtered shade. And so the
Oh.
mulberry tree puts back on the leaves, and so now these mango
Hmm.
trees are getting the filtered shade. So I don't have to get out there and put up any temporary structures or shade cloth or
Mm.
anything like that. I'm
Yeah.
letting my mulberry tree do it naturally. And there's
Yeah.
lots of little spots like that all throughout my yard, that I've, with purpose, planted certain things that can withstand our intense summer heat. don't take a lot of water. And those things shade my younger and more sensitive trees and plants and food.
Mm,
And so, even though, yes, I am a very chaotic gardener and I'll plant anything anywhere just to see if it works, you still have to have some thought process that goes into it when you're planning out your garden and planting certain things there. So, I love to talk about microclimates. You walk into my backyard in the middle of the summer, and in the front yard, you're standing out on the asphalt, it's 115 degrees. You walk into my backyard with the
yeah.
microclimate I built, and it's 5 to 10 degrees cooler just
Mm,
by
Yeah.
walking 10, 15 feet.
Yeah. That's
So,
great.
I love
and to
it.
that point, that's why I love to just cram it in, pack it in. In some
Yeah.
climates, that doesn't work because you'll open things up to disease and things to that nature. But here in the desert Southwest, that's not really an issue. So I love to plant
So
things as
take
close as
advantage
possible
of it.
together, and the trees thrive off of it and love it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I remember, and I just think there's so much wisdom in that and sustainability in that method.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the comments I got on a video, something about shade cloth, was someone from the Middle East, and they were talking about the like the date palms or something. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's maybe not as much of a practice as it used to be, but that really got me thinking. And I was like, I need to learn how to do that, because you're right. I don't enjoy putting up this shade cloth season after season, and
Hmm.
it would be much happier to have environment that was kind of naturally shaded. um my garden over time, we had a lot of hackberries, which are great shade trees, but they're also fairly short-lived and susceptible to falling over and breaking. And that's exactly what's happened. I have a completely different sun exposure than I did 10 years ago. um, which in some ways, I mean, it's my winter garden is definitely thriving because of it, but in the
Yeah.
summer, ooh, it is tough. I mean, being out there after 9 o'clock, I'm just like, I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think the shade cloth is definitely something I'm leaning into, but it is, it's made of plastic, and I'm not, I kind of want to be cautious with that over the long term, just understanding it's going to degrade, it's costly. So what's a more sustainable approach?
Yeah.
Integrating some landscape structure, but I'm really keen on generating my own compost. So I'm working on that, year round. But
Yeah.
this time of year, making sure I'm building some good piles, making some inoculants, like with some compost extracts that I'm drenching my plants throughout the season to kind of give them, that soil, some microbes to kind of partner with the plants, and mulch. Like
Yeah.
I'll go after the first frost and kind of time it with the neighborhood pick up and look for those bags on the side of the road. And I
Hmm.
go, and if I
Hmm.
can pick up with one hand and it's real light, I know it's just leaves, right?
Yeah.
So I'll get like 40 or 50 bags of leaves, and I'll start leaf mold, but I'll also kind of use those as mulch.
Yep.
And the worms
Yeah.
love that stuff. So, really kind of taking care of that soil with, the biology, protecting it with the mulch, and then integrating the shade cloth, not only for the plants and the water conservation, but for me, because
Yeah.
then I can get out there and do what I love, and hopefully grow some food to go with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I joke about this all the time, as I am that neighbor who's walking down the street with your leaves, holding bags, walking down.
It's like free
And
money, I feel like.
yeah, yeah. And just last night, I was walking by this place over in my friend's neighborhood. We were walking around and noticed a whole bunch of black bags along the fence line of this house there. And I'm like, oh, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, oh, don't be yard waste. Don't be yard waste. So walking up there and I go to, like you say, go grab it, or, I touch it and I'm like, oh, I can feel sticks and stems in there. I'm like, darn it. So they're like, oh, you get to lift it up. Oh, it's just leaves. Perfect. And then I'm like, I told my friend too, I says, if those are leaves, I'm hauling bags of leaves back to my car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You got
That's
to take advantage of that gold.
That's huge. Scott, I think you and I have similar climates, but like mulching is huge throughout the
Mhm.
summer when you're in a very hot area, just to conserve
Yeah.
water and then also to feed the soil. If you're not mulching, you're making your life a lot harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly it can break down, and you're
Hmm.
like, I feel like I put a really good layer of mulch on this bed, and now I can see the soil, you know? It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, okay, keep
Yeah.
at it.
Yep.
I just showed the other day, what was it, last Saturday's show or the one before? It was just recently I showed my potato bed out there. And again, like you said, I pile it up nice and piled high, and it's
Mhm.
already, through the winter down to the ground again already. So it's kind of showing I got to remulch again. So, you got to let it break down, redo it, let it break down, redo it. And that's why I like to make sure I got all those extra bags of mulched up leaves so I can do that throughout the year, not just gathering them up and having that mulch for just, the winter season when they're falling, so I make sure I got that, because mulch, like you said, is important. It's a great strategy again for hotter climates. Keep that moisture sustained into your soil. But then another great point too, as well, is also, composting, doing these things to be feeding our soil so that we're feeding our plants, and our plants are strong, because now with strong plants, again, kind of coming back to weak plants are susceptible to pressures,
Mm.
strong plants can resist them a lot better as well too. So that is a big important one. And yeah, I wish I could get, in Michael, I really do. I mean, I love the idea, like you're talking about, with having, all of this stuff crammed in, and you can create kind of basically these, understories and microclimates and these sort of
Mhm.
things that are going on there too, to create kind of a, an environment that kind of helps itself throughout all of that stuff. But some of us are just in open places, and maybe even for some of us, I had for a while, I rent a place, so I can't go planting things in or do whatever, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow whatever, and then it's wide open. So in some cases, you really are kind of stuck with doing some things, shade cloth wise, or some things like that. So if that's
Yep.
the case, then definitely be looking at those sort of strategies. But if you do have the ability to, like, do what you're doing, Michael, and create kind of like a forest, and grow things around in a way to make and create protection, that is really a great way to go. And the more things growing, the more things you got to coming out of it too, right?
That's yep, yep. Like with my mulberry tree and other things that I use, like I use orange jubilee, which is from the Tacoma
Hmm.
family. I use castor bean because those grow really
Hmm.
fast. Then the cool thing is not only are they protecting those sensitive plants throughout the summer, but also
Yeah.
that's the mulch that I'm using, right? So
Mm.
I as I cut them and prune them because they grow so vigorously throughout the summer, that stuff is going right back down to the ground as mulch and it's feeding the soil, right? So and then also,
Hmm.
yeah, to your point, I don't want to discourage anybody. If you
No,
don't
no,
have that
no.
set up right now, or you just don't have the,
Yep.
the space. Yes, shade cloth. You definitely should use shade cloth. It's a very good
I know.
strategy,
I just
right?
wish too. I hear you talking about it, and I'm like, man, I wish I could put a big old mulberry tree up there. That'd be so awesome. But
Yeah.
no, I'm stuck. I got to do that. And then again, too, I have a rooftop as well. I grow on too. So there's, and we have to have
There's
something again
yeah.
too with it, all them sun loving, heat loving annuals. They don't want to be blasted
Mm.
Right.
full on like that as well too. So if you're going to be doing that, so you got to implement some of those strategies as well too. But yeah, God, I wish I could though. Man, it'd be so nice. It'd be so nice.
That's every gardener's wish. More space. I need more space. That
Yeah.
I
Right,
have space, but I need a lot more.
It's crazy
right.
talk, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, actually I was just conversating with our friend Adam yesterday. So we were talking about those tomatoes I was talking about, and that was one of those things, is that, I really do like the spaces I have. I like and again, maybe coming back to that question, what does my garden say about me? Right? Maybe there's also a little bit of like creativity as well, right? So I
Mm.
kind of like the fact that I've had to look at some spaces you wouldn't normally use, and be creative and find ways to use it to be productive and to, grow food and do all that sort of stuff. So a lot of it's really creative, really interesting. It's why this channel started and all of that. But I was talking with them. I was like, man, as much as we dream, all gardeners, I think, just have this dream. I just want more space. give me just an acre or two, imagine what I could do with that, and I could just do anything I wanted. All that sort of stuff would be great. But then again, I do really love my spaces, and I probably would pass it up if it really, I would hate to say, I mean, but I don't know. I would try to do them both, I guess. I don't know.
There you
I
go.
do like what we do here. It's really fun.
I'm keen on the I think a rooftop garden. I just love the idea of it. So that's really cool hearing that you got that going on, because and this just seems like such a good use of space, and like a whole other playground to explore. And it's like, why not? You just got that roof sitting up there. Like, if you've got the structure for it,
And even simpler, if you can build it nice and solid and everything, is just a little carport. That's what ours is, just a carport. It's a it's a double carport kind of, that's on its own, separate from the building, right? But it's all a nice big old flat carport. It's all built nice and solid and everything too. So I mean, that was one of the things. I was looking around, and I'd filled up my alleyway and used up all the space I could. I used all my patio space. I was up around my carport. I'd filled up everything, and I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And there was this moment where I just kind of looked up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a whole wide expanse of space up there. And if it's flat, you get something nice and flat. Or even if I owned a home and we had kind of like a curved carport, I'd rebuild that sucker and make it flat just to utilize that space. You know what I mean? Because
that's
then again,
awesome.
it's just space that's not being used, just sitting there,
Yeah.
Perfect. Out of the way too, so you can.
I talk a lot about the heat island effect, because I'm here, in suburban area of concrete, asphalt, artificial turf. I hate all that stuff, right? So how cool is that you're growing on your roof? Like, I would love to do that on mine, and that just helps decrease the heat island effect as well, getting more greenery up there. So that is cool.
Yeah, growing that stuff up. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to get it back in where back to where I left off with it, as we were really building and expanding and doing some things. I grew up there for about, I've been living here, I think, about 14 years or so. I grew up there for about 4 or 5 years, building up, and just kind of started with like a few of our containers and then built out more. And then at a point when we had to bring it down, because the ownership finally figured out after 5 years I was growing up there, because they hardly ever came around. But they were like, oh no, you need to take that down, right? So I ended up having to take it down for a while. But we were at this point where I had, I think, upwards of around 40 different pepper plants up there. We were expanding into some other plants and stuff. And so it was really fun. It was really cool. But now I got a new owner, and he's like, go for it. And so we're gonna get back up there this year, get it started back up. But that's kind of what was making me think about some of that stuff. Is like, what would I do again too? Because it was difficult, and I had kind of a really janky, if you will, setup for a shade cloth, because again, it is right up there. There's nothing shading anything, and it's direct sun too on a rooftop like that. So you do got to kind of think about that sort of stuff a little bit. And so that's kind of my big thing. I'm thinking, I was like, how do I really kind of do it so it's solid and it's good, and we do it right this time, and make sure it's a good setup for everything up there. And but I'm excited about getting back up there again too. I think it's a great idea, and it's what got all this. It's really kind of what got all this channel started, though, too.
Nice.
I had that up there, and people were like, "Oh, you need to show people what you're doing. This is really cool."
Yeah, that is cool.
I was like, "Oh, all right. Well, maybe I think I'll make a couple of videos." Yeah, and here we are.
Love it.
Right on. So let's see here. So we talked quite a bit here. Anything else that you guys want to talk about a little bit when it comes to your gardens growing this year before we finish up? I did actually, real quick, directed. I think you're in Texas, right, Scott?
Yeah.
I did set. I can't. I got to remember. I'm sorry, you guys, about questions. We get in these conversations sometimes. I know this one was asked a while ago. Can we grow raspberries in Texas? Do you know? Have you tried growing raspberries?
I have not tried, but I don't think it's very easy, because when there's a method for tipping them at a certain point in the season to try to get them to produce into the fall, but it's that heat. Really
Mhm.
really prevents us from having a good raspberry crop. I don't know of any good raspberries in Central Texas. Blackberries are a great option. They certainly grow like
A lot more
weeds.
resilient, yeah.
Hmm.
Blackberries in the Northwest are weeds.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
heard that.
learning. I put mine in a raised bed, and now it's coming up outside the raised bed, and I'm like, okay, I get you.
Mhm. Oh yeah, talk about just going at it and learning from things that you just do, right? Raspberries were a thing for me. I love raspberries. I wanted to grow some raspberries in my little garden space. It was my only little in-ground space that I finally developed after my first couple of seasons here. It was ready to really plant some stuff in ground. I was like, I want some raspberries. I just put those suckers right in the middle of my garden bed. Boom, right there. And then by the next year or so, raspberries popping up all the way over here, raspberries popping up all the way over there. I'm like, oh no, what's going on? And then this is when I finally decide to go research and look up what raspberries do and how they grow and what their habits are. And like, oh no, what did I do? But luckily for me, it's one of my more popular videos I have on the channel was me actually removing the raspberries from the garden bed and explaining what happened to me and what I was doing in the process I was going to have to go through to get them eradicated from this garden bed, which took a couple of years to do.
Oh,
Because
wow.
of the way they run and because they'll just run and you can cut them off. They'll just set up new plants and then they'll pop up again because you didn't find that one, because you got to really follow them in all the different directions they're going. And oh boy, that was quite a chore.
Yeah.
But
Lesson
so for
learned.
me, my recommendation for a lot of folks too is in areas is grow them in big containers. That way you don't have to worry about them in your garden, because they did really well in some containers for a few years. Let's see. Serena was kind of asking here too, Michael. On April Fool's Day, are you setting up a nerd's garden?
Nerd's garden.
A nerd's garden for the garden nerd, right?
I love it.
Yeah. Or maybe some sort of thing. I don't know how you would really kind of do that, in a way, make a garden nerd kind of theme type of thing, but that would be kind of fun.
That would be cool. Yes.
Right on, guys. Real quick here, though, too, before we do finish up today, like I said, I want to ask you guys real quick again, too. And we've touched on a few things, and of course, throughout our conversation at all. But do you guys have any real tips or advice that you would give to newer gardeners out there? People who are just getting started in this game, and again, we've been starting with Michael. We'll go ahead and start there with you as well, too. You guys, you got any real tips from your gardening experience and things that you've learned that, people are just starting out there that you'd like them to know about?
Yeah, I would say, one, just go for it. Don't worry about failing. And then treat the things you're planting and growing as living things, right? If you have that mindset, like this is a living thing, you'll be so much more successful as you care for it. Then you can just kind of follow your basic instinct, right? Like, oh, this is
Mhm.
a living thing. I need to treat it this way. I need to care for it this way. So as long as you have that mindset and you just go for it, and you also have the mindset of this might die, but that's okay. I'm going to learn. You'll be successful. You'll find that joy. And then 5 years from now, you'll look back and laugh at all the crazy, dumb things you did. But you'll also be very proud of everything that you've learned throughout the
Mhm.
process.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but don't hold back. Don't have pride. Don't be scared. If you're gonna look bad because you killed something, who cares? No real grower or gardener is gonna hold that against you. They're just gonna think it's awesome that you're jumping in and trying.
Yeah, kill some plants, right? When it comes
Go
down
kill
to
some
it,
plants.
go kill some plants. That is thing, and I again, um, my neighbors and all are starting their new garden and everything, and I love young new gardeners too, who are just like, oh, they're trying to save every little plant and every little thing. Oh, I gotta find a pot for this. It just popped up. I don't know, and there's these little sunflowers that are all bunched together, and she wants to save each and every one of them and everything. And I'm I'm like, yeah, that's a great effort, you know. And I'd help her along and do whatever. We'll see what we can do to save them, that sort of thing. But
Yep.
ultimately, I'm like, you know, your best advice ultimately is don't be afraid of watching plants die or having them die because of something that you made a mistake on, or the fact that you just can't keep a plant because you need the space for something else, or there's lots of other reasons why we're going to be pulling or unliving plants, right? So when it
Yep.
comes down
Yep.
to it, you know, don't be afraid to do that. Get into it, right?
Just relax. It's okay. Relax and enjoy the process.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And you're going to really enjoy the plants that you do succeed at and keep alive and all of that. And you'll really understand the sacrifice all those other plants have made to get you where you are in your garden
There you go.
journey.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah, I
about
would
you? How
say,
about you there, Scott?
well, I love what Michael said about, treating your plants like
Mhm.
living things, and extends to the soil, right? Treat the soil like a living thing. You want to
Yeah,
feed it,
yeah,
nurture it, water it, protect it. The soil is the stomach of the plant. That's where a lot of the important biology that pairs with the plants, that's where it goes down. So,
hmm,
starting small, following, things throughout the season, understanding the cycle, understanding the systems that you need to employ, make systems that fit your garden, right? That are
yeah,
easier for you to implement season after season, and just understand the needs. Like if you're coming to a new growing zone, or if you're just getting started, a lot of gardening information on the pack of seeds or a plant at the big box retailer is going to be very general and not specific to your growing zone. So what is it like growing in Wisconsin? What is it like growing in Central Texas? Two very different beasts. You can't grow raspberries here. You're going to start like 10 weeks earlier in Texas than a lot of these other places. It's going to get so hot you can't believe it, and you're like, why are my plants dying? It's because, like, well, it's hard to live here.
yeah.
um,
It is. Yeah.
so really kind of having that perspective, and try not to be overwhelmed, but if you kind of lean
Hmm,
into
hmm.
the experience of it. Okay, I'm going to try one container. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to learn from it. Don't necessarily have the expectation that things are going to go perfectly. And if they do,
Hmm.
realize that, as you build an ecosystem at whatever scale, whether
Yeah.
it's your patio or, a large backyard, things will change because you're creating a habitat. That's a good thing. And that is really going to be the key to the journey, in my opinion. And I always say keep it organic, and I mean like keep it real organic. Like
Yeah.
like before we had organic products and all this stuff, give
Hmm.
back to your garden. We want to grow flowers, we want to grow food, we want to take it out. We need to give back to our garden. We need to understand those natural cycles and how we can grow healthy, nutritious food for ourselves, for our family, our neighbors, and do it in a way that is truly sustainable, which begins, from a regenerative organic, standpoint.
Yes,
Love it, Scott. You
absolutely.
and I have similar philosophies. I love what
All
you said.
right.
Awesome.
Oh, we all do. We all do that. And that's
Thank you.
just,
Yeah.
that's perfectly right. Like for me, you know, that's just, I try to do zero implements if I possibly can. And very rarely
Yeah.
will try to do certain stuff. And there are certain things I will do at certain times. So I'm not, this isn't like a line in the sand type of thing when it comes down to it. You know, there are certain aspects and for certain things when it comes to how I'll deal with it, but it's all organic when it comes down to it. But I'd rather just be, you know, like I said, you know, instead of creating my own fertilizers out of my own compost, my own worm castings, my own things like that, that I'm doing, instead of all these other sorts of things that can be put into it, if we can create our own inputs and do certain things like that, they're going to really take us to that next level. I did also, like, you're talking about there too, talking about keeping it simple, keeping it small. This is a huge piece of advice. And again, too, a lot of people like myself, and again, maybe my neighbors as well too. And a lot of us, we jump
Me
in and
too.
we get into gardening and we want to do anything and everything we can, and we, our seed collections definitely are not a reflection of the things we're growing, because we're you know, we're getting all of them we
Mhm.
can. We want to grow everything. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of how it is. But ultimately, I think that's right. You know, is we still want to try to advise, you know, keep it simple. But if and what I would always tell people too, and you and also Scott, you did kind of touch on this a little bit earlier as well, but is that in that sort of sense of keeping things small in a sense, is maybe focusing on like one thing, maybe grow a bunch of stuff. And this is kind of what I kind of do in a ways though, is like, I'm going to make something that I'm maybe not as successful with, kind of my focus this year. You know what I mean? So I'm going to kind of focus in on maybe one or two varieties of things. I'll really put a lot of my attention to them. And then I'm just going to go with my general garden, do whatever I do with everything else, just let things go, let them do best I do with everything else. But I'm going to really just kind of focus in on a couple of things. And I think for newer folks as well, along with that advice of keeping it simple and all of that, is if you do want to just do everything, be prepared. It's not going to be as successful. Do all of that stuff, but really maybe just kind of focus in on one or two of those things as something maybe like, okay, well, I'm going to do all of this. I'm prepared. Maybe it's not going to be as successful, but I'm going to work hard on making this one or two really the best I can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Yeah. Good advice all around, you guys. Man, I'm telling you, this is really awesome. Again, too, I just love these conversations. This has just been a really, really exceptional one today. You guys have really brought it today, man. Thanks a
All right.
lot. I really, really appreciate it. And real quick as well, too, before we do let you guys go here today, I do want to give you guys just another minute here, just to kind of let everybody know about yourselves, and let everybody know about your channel, where they can find you and all of that. Maybe something you got coming up, if you want to throw that in there as well, too, though. But from me, though, you know, again, I really just, again, great conversation, guys. This was really awesome.
Awesome.
Michael?
Yeah, so on YouTube, The Garden Nerd, you'll see my
Yep.
face holding all this fruit in front of me. And also on Instagram, The Garden Nerd, you'll find me there as well. If you're local here in the Phoenix area, I offer consultations. I
Yeah.
offer fertilizing, soil feeding um, program, I guess you could call it. But you'll find
Right.
all that information if you just jump on Instagram and YouTube. But yeah, come nerd out with me, and let's talk about growing, and love the process along the way.
Yes. Awesome. Go nerd out
Nice.
with Michael Overstreet over at the Garden Nerd. How about you, Scott?
Yeah. So you can find me at New Garden Road on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Threads. And you know, I really lean into YouTube. I've been around there about 6 or 7 years, documenting my garden. So it can be kind of slow, but I've been developing, you know, monthly gardening guides to kind of,
Yes.
you know, really,
Awesome.
you know, help, you know, the discussion. But like Michael, I do private consultations. If you're in the Central Texas area, I can come out to your garden, help you get growing. And I've also started to do a learning tour series at my home garden. I've done 5 so far. So I did a round of 3 this spring to really bring, you know, small group of folks in to see it firsthand, just and touch on so many of the things that we talked about today.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love
so
that
that
too, man. And that's just really taking that, even, you know, your knowledge and the things you've learned to a local level as well, you know, and
Mhm.
bringing people in and doing that sort of stuff. And it's something I've got to work on and do a little bit more as we're planning and setting some newer things up. Like I said, I got new ownerships. We got some new ideas on a lot of stuff. And some of that is like that. I want to do those types of local tours and bring people in so they can come and look around and guide them around and show them and do that sort of stuff.
it's
I think
great for
I
building
think it's really
community.
awesome. It is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because as we say too, again, we're here on the show here each and every weekend, you know, getting together with gardeners like yourselves here to talk about growing community through gardening, you know, it's a really important thing to be able to, as people are so passionate about gardening like we are, to have our community and have our places where we can gather and come together and do that sort of stuff. And it's really awesome that we have, again, this show for one, to be able to do it, but YouTube in
Yep.
general and these places online for us to be able to groups and gather and do that as gardeners. But really, when it comes down to it, if we're really doing some real important sharing in our gardening experiences, it's going to be at the community level, where we can get together with those who are locally around us, where advice does the best, where
Yep.
our helping hand can work the best, all of that sort of stuff. So really, really kudos to you guys for making that effort to get yourselves out there and do that as well too, and help us grow more gardeners out there. So thanks again, guys, and to everybody out there as well too. Go show Michael and Scott some love there at the Garden Nerd and New Garden Road. We've got their links right down below in the description for you. And like I say, go and check out something that they've got going on their channels there. Maybe one of their social media or something, a new post, new video or something. Go let them know you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. And again, you guys, thanks so much for this just really, really awesome conversation. Really, just really making these roundtables just really, really awesome. And just can't get enough of it. I could keep on talking to you guys for another hour or two about all of this stuff.
That was great. Thank you
for having me.
And Scott, good to meet you.
Good to meet you, Michael.
Yes, absolutely, guys. And again, too, hopefully we'll get another chance down the road, down a New Garden Road, maybe, as you will, and get a chance to talk to you guys again and nerd out on some gardening, right?
There you go.
All right, guys. Thanks again so much for being here with us. We'll look forward to seeing all of you again. Everybody, go and check out their links down below. Thanks again, guys.
See you guys.
Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Oh, I don't know if I'll ever get that right. All right. Excellent. What a great conversation, everybody. How about that? Another wonderful weekend here on the Let's Get Growing show in the books. Some great gardening advice from our good friends there at New Garden Road and the Garden Nerd, Michael Overstreet and Scott Blackburn. Like I said, definitely get down in the description below. I've got links down there so you can go and check out what they've got growing on and let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. And again, thank you all so much, everybody, for being here today. Just great to have you all here. There was a question I wanted to get to real quick. Again, too, I do also want to kind of acknowledge questions again one more time, and hopefully we'll kind of maybe talk about this just a little bit more too. Is that I love questions more. The questions are awesome, they're great, but I do try to make sure we're fitting them into the conversation. We want to make sure we're having a great conversation. As if we can, and then try to keep on subject as we're going through the conversation. So eventually I'm going to try to work in any of these sort of questions that I possibly can when I can into the conversation. And then some of them, again, are probably more general gardening questions and that sort of stuff like that. And we'll kind of move those forward. And I'll try to answer this one too, because I love growing garlic. And Serena was talking about this in the chat just a little bit earlier about having garlic that was growing so closely together, and whether or not she should split them or move them, right? Or leave it where it is. And I showed actually everybody a clip of my garlic that was growing again on one of our openings for the Saturday show. It might have been just this last week. or week before last. But I had a couple that I think were left in, or maybe even they were a couple that just kind of got put together in the same hole, maybe by accident or something. Is something another thing that could have happened with them. Is something I thought about later after I shot that little video, but I still think it might have been one that just got left behind from the year before or something, is what I really believe. I'll have to pull it out before I can really tell if that's what happened or not. But in the case of having garlic that's already kind of grown so much already into this part of the season now, because we're really only just a few weeks away now. My hardneck garlic that I have, and hardnecks are the ones that are going to put up the flower stalk and the scape, right? So those are going to be just about ready to start pushing those flower stalks out here real soon. So I'll be harvesting scapes, and then as soon as I harvest scapes, it's probably just within another week or so from there that I'm going to be pulling those plants out of the ground. So we're already really deep into a long growing process that garlic already has. So at this point in time, I wouldn't be pulling anything and just let them grow as they will. And then maybe see if you can't get some cloves off of those that you can grow separately as new plants for your next garlic season. So my advice is don't mess with garlic if it's already in the ground and growing. It's just, again, if it was younger, and I noticed this, maybe it was during the earlier months of it coming up or something like that, I might be able to go in there if the soil is still workable and it's not that cold out yet, and I might be able to go in there and pull them and separate them and pull them apart earlier on in the process. But at this point, being so late in the process, I would just leave them where they are and just let them go as they are. So hopefully, again, they're going to taste just like garlic and be just as delicious. As one thing too is when it comes to, I've never really seen, like, I've grown bunched garlic before, and I've never really noticed really any sort of like loss of flavor or anything like that. So I'm sure you're going to have just as delicious garlic as ever. It's just probably not going to be those really nice big fat bulbs you're looking for when it comes down to it. So again, thanks for the questions. And again, everybody, thank you so much for being here and participating in the show and all of that sort of stuff. And and making these shows so much fun. Like I said, I have so much fun talking with everybody as far as the discussion that we get to have with all the guests and everything. It's so much fun, but then at the same time, it's so much fun watching you guys and your conversation as well too, and getting to see all of that and everything that we've brought together here on the show is so really fun and really awesome. And so, and again, thanks to Bohemian Herbology there too. But yeah, again too, thank you all so much. And again, be sure to keep an eye on our upcoming shows. We've got lots and lots of shows and more shows coming up. I still have a possibility. I'm going to throw this out here once more too. There's still a possibility I might have to take one more Saturday off. I'm going to find out hopefully real soon. So I'll hopefully be able to give you guys a big enough heads up about that. But as you know, we'll always keep the chat open for our showtime and all of that as well too, if that comes down to it. But that still might be a possibility. But we still got lots of great guests that I'm lining up for lots and lots of great shows that we still have coming up. And again, too, be sure to be here next week for our Saturday show. Man, I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite people. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest, like I said, and if you're outside, which I know a lot of you are outside the Pacific Northwest, you might not be too familiar with my good friend Cisco Morris. Cisco Morris is basically a primetime garden celebrity of the Pacific Northwest when it comes down to it. And he is probably one of the most amazing people. And he's funny as all get out, and he's just a great conversation with so many really fun awesome gardening stories that always have some sort of lesson, some sort of gardening lesson in them. And we'll get some more of those stories from our good friend Cisco Morris joining with us again this next Saturday for our Saturday show. And then again, we are here every weekend, like I said, Saturday and Sunday. And our Sunday edition of the show next Sunday, we're gonna have another garden roundtable. We're inviting back a couple more authors. In fact, Cisco was an author on our monthly gardening book club as well with his book Ooh La La. Karen Hugh was a featured author on our book club with her book, Leave Your Troubles Behind. And same with Ashley Thomas, the Mocha Gardener. She was a feature on our monthly gardening book club too with her book, How to Become a Gardener. So we're going to bring Karen and Ashley together for a fun gardening roundtable conversation and talk all about what they've got growing on in their gardens. And here's a question for all of you who've stuck around and hung out with me all the way to the end of this show today, and especially those of you who are on the replay. If you can, drop in the comments if you've got an idea for what would be a good show topic or a show question. Like I was mentioning with our guests earlier, I would love to do more of this. This one today was more of a suggestion I got from someone else. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys. What kind of topics do you want to hear us talk about when it comes to our roundtables? So if you got any suggestions or any ideas that you can share with me and let me know what you think would be a great topic for us to talk about with Ashley and Karen next week, drop those into the comments. I'll keep an eye out and we'll maybe throw that out for our roundtable conversation next week. And one more time, I know I mentioned it earlier too, again, third Sundays of the month is our monthly gardening book club, and we just announced our new book for the month. So this is the book we're featuring this month. It's Christian Douglas's The Food Forward Garden. Go and find yourself a copy of The Food Forward Garden and come and join with us on Father's Day, June 15th, for the third Sunday of next month to talk about this really, really great book with our good friend MBC joining us live as our co-hosts and getting a chance to hang out and have a really fun book club with Christian Douglas. So you don't want to miss out on that as well too. So again, everybody, thank you so much for being here. And before you leave, make sure you hit that thumbs up, hit the like button there. And again, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Follow along with all of our videos and live streams. Get notified by hitting the bell notification and share with all of your friends out there. And definitely follow all of the links down in the description below to check out all of our guests, all of our social media. And again, one more time too, thank you, Paul from Guten Gardening, for jumping in and joining our In the Garden segment. And go down into the description below. Check out Paul's link to Guten Gardening. Go over there and say hi to him as well too. And again, thank you all so much for being here. I love hanging out with you. I look forward to seeing all of you again this next week for next week's shows. We'll see all of you this next Saturday.